place for people. People that need help, and that's all of us at one time or another. We need different kinds of help maybe. GODTEL is not primarily a place to give people a roof over their head and food to eat. GODTEL is a place whereby we can tell people about Jesus Christ. GODTEL is a school. It's my school. It's my wife's school. It's a place whereby we can learn how to minister to people, how to love people, sometimes people that are unlovable. And all the people that cooperate in this effort get to be part of what's going on at GODTEL.
I wrote a book, one that got published here recently, and a couple weeks ago I got my first, I might have told you this last week, but I got my first royalty check in the mail for $4.50. But I was excited. Maybe I'll get another one next month for $3.29 plus shipping and handling. All right, we're in 1 Corinthians chapter 4. And the title of the message is Ministers of Christ. Ministers of Christ. Let a man so account of us as of the ministers of Christ, and servants of the mysteries of God. Moreover, it is required in stewards that a man be found faithful. But with me it is a very small thing that I should be judged of you, or of man's judgment. Yea, I judge not my own self, for I know nothing by myself, yet am I not hereby justified, but he that judges me is the Lord. Therefore, judge nothing before the time until the Lord come, who both will bring to light the hidden things of darkness and will make manifest the counsels of the hearts. And then shall every man have praise of God. And these things, brethren, I have in a figure transferred to myself and to Apollos for your sakes, that you might learn in us not to think of men above that which is written, that no one of you be puffed up for one against another. For who makes thee to differ from another? And what hast thou that thou didst not receive? Now if you did receive it, why do you glory as if you have not received it? Now you are full, now you are rich, you have reigned as kings without us. I would to God you did reign, that we might reign with you. For I think that God has set us forth, the apostles, last, as it were appointed to death, for we are made a spectacle unto the world, and to angels, and to men. Let's go back to verse 1. Now, when I say something funny, you're supposed to laugh, or else I have to hold up my sign. Right? And you don't want me to have to hold up my sign because it wears my arm out. Let a man account us as the ministers of Paul, and the other apostles and the preachers today are ministers of Christ. We are messengers. And we don't have very nice messages. If you want nice messages, you have to listen to some of the TV preachers. They always tell you nice things that you want to hear. The problem is the gospel message is full of tragedy and judgment. And if you don't listen to it, you'll end up in hell. And yet you don't hear very many preachers talking about that because it's not popular and it's not good for the pocketbook. If you mention that too much at church, then your congregation will dwindle and your money will go. And if you do too much on TV, of course, people won't send you money. And then you won't have cash to flash and bread to spread. See, you should have laughed there. So, we are ministers of Christ and stewards of the mysteries of God. The word steward means servant. I am a servant. The Apostle Paul was a servant. Preachers that are following the Lord are servants. And that's all we are. We have nothing to boast about, nothing to brag about, because we are servants according to God's will and according to the information that He gives us to relay to you. We're servants. Now, the word servant, of course, you know, we live in this politically correct society, which, by the way, in the recent polls that were done, they found out that over half of the people in the United States are sick and tired of being politically correct. I'm so glad. I'll be glad when it gets to about 75%. Then we can just tell everybody, and they won't have to like it, but they'll just have to lump it. I go in a restaurant, and I get so tickled at these little girls and guys that come up to wait on us. Hi, my name's Joni, and I'll be your server today. And I look at my wife and say, should I tell her what that means? Because if I told her what it meant, it means servant, she'd get mad. But that's what it is. And the whole time I'm in the restaurant and I'm going to be paying the bill and she wants a good tip from me, I'm sure, I say, excuse me, I need more water over here. Give me water. I need some mashed potatoes. Mashed potatoes. Oh, by the way, I forgot. I need gravy too. Gravy. I mean, they are my servant while I'm paying that bill. And the same thing applies to you who have jobs, which is not all of you, but if you have a job, you are a servant. Your boss says sweep, and what do? Sweep. If you want to keep the job, right? You sweep. And if you're smart, that's what you'll do until you get a chance at a better job, you know. I don't understand people that quit a job before they've got another one lined up. Would make more sense, even if you're working at McDonald's, to keep that paycheck coming in until you got a better one. But most people don't do that. They just quit and then they're homeless. It happens. Your boss is your master, but we don't like that. I went into a store not too long ago, an auto parts store, to buy some parts for a car. I was working on the clutch. Scanner transmission. I needed what's called, in the books, a master cylinder and a slave cylinder. That's what it's called. It's been called that ever since I've been working on cars, which has been 50-something years. 55, 60 years. I'm getting old. And the guy got mad. He said, you can't call it that. I said, well, what do you call it? And he just looked at me with a blank stare. He had no idea what to call it. I said, look, buddy, instead of worrying about being politically correct, would you go in your computer, find out where that part is, and go bring it to me so I can pay for it? I mean, I'm sick of this nonsense. It's just a bunch of nonsense. People all worked up over words, you know. When I worked regular jobs, I was a servant. And sometimes I still do. You know, I work for other people sometimes. And money gets a little tight around here. Martin and I may have to go out and do a little job, mowing lawns or something. I don't know. But if we do that, then we become servants, don't we? Yeah. Of course, we like to use the word employee and employer. It sounds more dignified. But hello, it means the same thing. So don't get excited. And that's what Paul was, Paul. Paul. He said, we are servants of the mysteries of God. What God reveals. We share with you what God reveals. Moreover, it is required of a steward or a servant that a man be found faithful. If you want to keep your job, what do you got to do? Be faithful. You got to show up on time, don't you? If you don't show up on time, what happens? After a while, the boss says, I've had enough of this, and gets somebody else. You got to show up on time. You got to do your job, whatever job it is that you've hired on to do. And you should do it well. And if you're a Christian, you should be the best employee they've got. The pay is irrelevant. It doesn't matter. I've worked a lot of jobs where I didn't get paid very much. One time, we were back, had 2 kids already, and we needed money for food. And I saw an ad, so I went into this car wash to get this job cleaning out the pits. I don't know if any of you have ever had that privilege. You take this big grate off to where they wash the cars, and then you scoop the sludge and mud, and it's foul, the smelling stuff you've ever seen. It's got dead animals in it. It's got baby diapers in there. Everything you can imagine, and baby diapers that are full of poo-poo. And you scoop them out, and you put it in a wheelbarrow, and you take it to where they told you to dump it, and you do that, and you keep doing that until finally you can't reach it anymore. Then you got to get in the pit. Yeah. Every kind of insect, every kind of everything you can imagine, roaches floating by. And you get, and my wife did not want me to come home. I did that job. I cleaned out 3 of those pits, $7 a pit. I know some of you would never do this job, but I wanted to eat, and my wife wanted to eat, and the kids wanted to eat, And I'm a man, so I'm not taking a handout from anybody. Took me 3 days to clean out 3 pits. I made $21 for 3 days' work. Of course, this was back in the 70s. And that $21 lasted us, about 2 weeks for food? A couple of weeks while I looked for another job. And I took all kinds of jobs. I worked in a chicken hatchery. I worked construction. I worked destruction. Most of the construction I did was destruction. While I was learning how to do things, I learned how to sheetrock. I learned how to do plumbing, electrical work. I worked for electricians. And, all this time I was, God had called me to preach, and I was studying for the ministry. But I did whatever came up. Martin did too. Martin welded. He did every kind of job you can imagine. He just took them because we believe that we're supposed to work like the Bible says and take care of our families and help other people too. Because that's what the Bible teaches. And yet I see Christians, I should say I see people who call themselves Christians who are just lazy. A Christian should never be lazy. God says so in His Word over and over and over. He calls them sluggards, especially in the book of Proverbs. God does not like sluggards, lazy people. Of course, I know it's none of you. It's the people that were here last week. I knew it was going to happen. I can't even pick it up. Look at that. Okay. Maybe if I put it on the other side of my water, I could get it easier. Be faithful. If you agree to work for a minimum wage, then you ought to work. Put in a full day's work for that minimum wage. I get these people, they're only paying me minimum wage, so I ain't working very hard. And they don't usually last very long on that job. If you learn one simple little lesson that I've learned, you get a job and make yourself indispensable, you won't be making minimum wage very long, and you won't be doing the dirty, nasty jobs that you started out with. I had to learn that the hard way. I had to get fired from several jobs before I learned how to be a good sweeper. And after I learned to be a good sweeper, they took the broom away from me. I was working in a machine shop, and they let me start running machines. I never had to sweep again. I only swept for 3 days. But boy, I swept dirt they didn't even know they had. Make yourself indispensable. People say, if I do that, I'll never get out of this job. It doesn't work that way. If they see potential in you, they're going to move you up. But if you just drag around and barely get your job done, you might keep the job, but you'll never make any progress. You'll be making minimum wage the rest of your life. And please don't wait for the government to raise minimum wage. That never works. When I started working, minimum wage was $1 an hour. $1 an hour, I had a house, I had a car, I had a wife, couldn't keep her. But I had this one for 45 years. That other one I only had for a year and a half. She ran off with my best friend. Thank God for small miracles.
Making less than $1 an hour now.
Yeah, we are. We make less than $1 an hour now. That's the truth. But it don't matter. Martin and I have learned over the years how to save our money and invest it in other things. And we own it. We just sold all our rent houses. We don't have them anymore. Thank God for that. Martin's still got a couple. But we've learned how to take that little bit of money and turn it into more money. That's what you're supposed to do. We've also learned how to give. And we've also learned that our blessings from God are in direct proportion to our giving. You want God to bless you? Quit being selfish and stingy. But with me, it is a very small thing that I should be judged of you, or of man's judgment. I don't even judge my own self. David's testimony in Psalms 139. He says, God, test me, try me, search me, see if there's any wicked thing in my heart. If there is, then expose it, Lord, so I can get it right. And you want God to show you, because you don't know yourself. You're just busy justifying your sin. It's not so bad. I'm not as bad as some people. Probably we're worse, but we don't think we are. We live in, and if you're a Christian and you've been living in adultery, or you're going to live in adultery, don't be telling me you're a Christian. I don't want to hear it. And these people all the time come to me, I'm a Christian. I said, my wife had to tell somebody today, aren't you living in adultery? Well, yeah. I love it when these guys say to me, but we're in love. Yeah, and they're in love until he decides he doesn't want to be with her anymore. And then he's not in love anymore. He's got to find him a new love. And he doesn't even know how to spell love. I've seen it on the back of the cars, L-U-V. That's not how to spell love. Love is kind, unselfish, always looking out for the needs of the other person. Most people, their idea of love is feelings. He says, I'm not going to be judged of you or anybody else. God is my judge, for I know nothing. I like that phrase. I know nothing by myself, yet I am not hereby justified, but he that judges me is the Lord, and the Lord judges us by revelation. I know nothing of myself, but I know everything I need to know as a Christian as I seek God. He tells me what to do and what to say. Therefore, judge nothing before the time, until the Lord comes, who both will bring to light the hidden things of darkness and make manifest the counsel of the hearts. There's two kinds of judging in the Bible. You know, one is Matthew, and the other one's in John. Jesus told us a story that relates to those, and I'll get back to the judging. A man goes out to work, and he's standing there at the corner, and this guy comes by in his Cadillac. He's got a field he wants plowed, so he says to the guy, he says, come work in my field. And they agreed that he would pay him a penny for that day's work. Penny means in the Bible it's a day's wages. So he agreed to work for a day's wages. That's enough money to feed him and to give him a place to sleep, and all that kind of stuff for a day. Well, he goes out there. Well, the guy goes back about 9 o'clock and finds some more people and says, go into my field. No agreement. He said, just go in there and work, and he says, I'll pay you whatever's right. About 12, he goes out there again. 3 o'clock, he goes out there again. Finally, at 5 o'clock, he goes out there again. And you can find this in Matthew chapter 20, verse 15. And he goes out there, and he texts these guys at 5 o'clock. He says, go in my field. Well, 6 o'clock is quitting time. They always work till 6. And so he goes out there, he tells his servants, he says, go out there and gather the men so I can pay them off. He says, start with the ones that got here last. And the ones that got there last, he gave them all a penny, day's wages. All the way up to the first guys thought, we ought to get more. Because we've borne the heat of the day and we worked more hours, But when they got there, he just gave them a day's wage. Well, they got mad and started grumbling. He said, didn't you agree with me for a day's wage? Oh, yeah, we agreed. He says, take what's yours. I'm giving you what's yours. Take it and go. I've done you no wrong. He said, I can pay these guys anything I want to. It's my money. So Jesus tells us through this story that we're not to judge what's right and what's wrong, because only the Lord knows what's right and what's wrong. So, we get to verse 6. And these things, brethren, I have in a figure transferred to myself and to Apollos for your sake, that you might learn in us not to think more highly or proud of men above that which is written. What do? We take people, we put them on little pedestals. We've got these singers. They're our idols, And I understand that because I used to work in nightclubs, and my goal was to be, a rock and roll singer, and I was doing pretty good. These cute little women coming up to me wanting my autograph. Some of them offering to buy me lunch and dinner and breakfast.
Watch it.
Well, it's the truth. And football players and basketball players, we idolize these kind of people. Pay them millions of dollars, And I'm always amazed that the teachers barely get a living salary. They're the ones that ought to be getting $1 million putting up with those knuckleheads. But I throw football. Well, there's two kinds of judging. In Matthew chapter 7, verse 1, it says, judge not lest you be judged. Now, people quote that to me all the time. If I say anything's wrong with them or they're living in sin, judge not lest you be judged. But they don't know the other side of the coin, which is John 7:24, which says, judge righteous judgment. Now here's how it works. Let's say you come up to me and you have this book. And the book has a green cover. And you say, Brother June, would you read this book and tell me if you think it's any good? And I said, well, I can tell you right now it's no good. Why is it no good? I said, because it's got a green cover. Anybody knows anything knows that a book with a green cover is no good. What am I doing? I'm judging the book by what? By the cover. I see a guy walking down the street and I say, man, look at that guy, he's a thief. Why you say that, Brother June? Look at him. Look at them beady little eyes. The way he walks. He's a thief. What am I doing? Judging the book by the cover. Now, let's say you bring me that book. It's got a green cover. But you say, would you please read this book and tell me what you think of it? And I say, yes, I will. And so you come back in 2 weeks and you say, Brother June, did you read that book? I say, I certainly did. What do you think? I think that's the worst book I've ever read. But what am I doing now? I'm judging the facts as I see them. I'm judging righteous judgment. I didn't judge the book by the cover. I read it. So I see this guy and I say, look, that guy's a thief. Well, how do you know he's a thief, Brother June? I said, because yesterday I was in Walmart and I rounded one of the aisles and I saw him stuffing things in his pants and I watched him and he walked out the door without paying for it. I'm not judging the book by the cover. I'm doing what? Judging the facts as I see them. Now, opinions can always be off. One person likes a rotten book and somebody else thinks it's great or not great. But at least if you've read it, you're not judging the book by the cover. And that's what we do. We judge the books by the cover. I told our church Sunday morning, we have a mixed church, and I'm the most mixed up one in there. And I said, you know what black people have that white people don't have? Now I can say this because I'm neither white nor black. I'm brown. And he says, what's that? Melanin. You know what melanin is? It's in your cells. That's what gives you the color you are. Black people just simply have more of it than the brown people, and the brown people have more of it than Whitey over there. But if you take away all the melanin from the brown people and the black people, what do you have? You just have white people. There's no difference between us, actually. Except some of us have more melanin than others. Big deal. There's really no difference. We're all related. That's what this sign up here is all about, Acts chapter 17. God made all the races, which I hate using that word because there's only one race of people. It's called the human race. My wife was filling out some papers for me at the hospital when I fell off the car lift and busted my collarbone all up. And she got to race. I said, put human race. Well, that's the truth. We're all the same. It's just that God chose to give some people something more than some other people have, which changes our skin color. But that's all, and that's why they say, beauty is only skin deep. They are right about that. I mean, you skin us and we all look the same. Yeah. I've seen skinned humans. It's horrible. Especially after the flies get to them. We're all the same. You know, that's why you should never judge a book by the cover. Because you don't know what's underneath. And underneath, our hearts, the emotional side of us, I like to call it, they're the same. We all love, we all hate. We all desire, we all have, and sometimes we can't have. But there's no difference. It's all superficial. And if you could learn that lesson, you'd be a happier camper on planet Earth. So judge not, lest you be judged, but go ahead and read the book, and then you can make a proper judgment. For who makes thee to differ from one another? What do you have that you did not receive? I mean, as a gift. What do you have? Did anybody in this room, before you were born, decide you were going to be born? Anybody in here decide what continent they wanted to live on before they were born? See if I can make mommy move to that continent. Anybody decide what they were going to be after they were born? Before they were born? No. Everything we've gotten, life, air to breathe, it's a gift. You ought to be thankful every day that there's air. I was real thankful there was air yesterday because I was blowing holes in some Freon tanks so I could scrap them, and everything was going well until I got about to the 25th one and it had Freon still in it. Freon doesn't ignite, but I'll tell you what it does do. It makes it really hard to breathe while it's coming out of the bottle. And I told the guys, I said, take that bottle outside. And they just stood there holding it. It's spewing Freon everywhere. Take it outside. And my brother says, let me get some more bottles out. I said, I'll bring them in the wagon. Just get that one out of here. I was going, okay, it makes your throat burn. It's no fun. I said, take it outside, let it spew out there. I was real thankful that there was enough air for me to breathe. As much Freon was coming out of it, if they didn't get that bottle out pretty quick, I'd have probably passed out. Or started talking higher, I don't know. Oh, that's helium, it is helium. I like that helium because you take a whiff of that and you go, hi boys, how are you? So, who made us differ from one another? Well, nobody. That's a rhetorical question. There are no differences, actually. I learned that in jail in 1971. I knew God had a sense of humor. I grew up in Los Angeles, so, in the schools, everything, we were all mixed up all the time. And I got put in this jail cell. It was an 8-man cell, and I was the 9th man in. That meant I had to sleep on the cement on a pad, and the other 8 guys were black. And I lived with those guys for a long time, and in all that I learned a lot of lessons, and one of the lessons I learned was there were no differences. We all did everything the same. And of course, living in Los Angeles, most of the people, you couldn't tell if they were black, white, or Mexican on the phone because everybody talked without an accent. Here it's different. But it doesn't change just because we got an accent. Sometimes I have an accent. I walked into a store and got in trouble. I said, my name is Boris Ivantasy. I'm from Russia. I come here to United States America to steal nuclear secrets. All the cameras turned towards me. I had to quit saying that one. It was funny. I know because we have a Russian guy staying with us in Nacogdoches, and I pulled that on him, and he just laughed and laughed and laughed. He thought it was funny. Russian humor. We have everything just given to us, especially here in America. There's people tonight in countries where thousands and thousands upon thousands of people are being slaughtered, and there's people out there with no water, no nothing. Mexico City right now, they haven't had water for a week. There's 9 million people without water. They're having trucks trying to bring enough in to keep them from dying. And here we got all the water. We could take an all-day bath if we want to. And those people don't have any water. That's pretty amazing. And we take everything for granted. We come to GODTEL and say, oh, that's horrible. Why? Somebody cooks your meals for you. Somebody else washes your clothes for you. You didn't have it that good at home. Plus you get to see me. That's exciting. Now you are full, now you are rich, and boy, let me tell you something, folks. Compared to some people in this world, you're sitting here at GODTEL tonight, but you are rich. Well, there's a lot of people who have nothing. I mean nothing. They don't even have a toilet. They have nothing. You have reigned as kings without us. I would to God that you really did reign, he says. We might reign with you. Actually reign is what he's talking about there, because Revelations 1:6 tells us that the Christians are priests and kings unto God. My realm of influence, I am to live like a king. Martin's supposed to be the king of this hill. Here, I'm the king of those other hills. And that's the way it's supposed to be. So people ask me, Brother June, what do you do for a living? I say, nothing. You don't work for a living? No, never have. Not for 40-something years. Well, do you work? Well, yeah, I work. But I work to help other people. I don't work for a living. And they say, why? That's because I'm a king. Kings don't work for a living, do they? No, they sit around issuing edicts. You go do that. You go do that. You get over there and sit still and look pretty. Of course, that's to the girls, you know. A guy asked me the other day, he says, you watch the Dallas Cowboys? I said, no. He says, you don't like the Cowboys? I said, no, I like the Cowgirls. My wife won't let me watch them. So I'm a king, but I got a queen, and she has a big stick. So I have to watch out for the queen. For I think that God has set us forth, the apostles, last, as if we were appointed unto death. And all the apostles except John died horrible martyrs' deaths, were made spectacles unto the world. I got the little vision in my head. It says here we're made spectacle unto the world and unto angels. And I could just picture in my mind the angels, thousands of them, sitting in the bleachers, looking down on us like we're in a big arena, watching some of the dumb things we do. A few weeks ago when I fell off that car lift, I could just hear all the angels roaring with laughter. Say, look what the dummy did today. Hey, God, you need to see this. He fell flat on his back. I did. And that was strange because I didn't break anything. And the doctor said, at your age, you should have broken a bunch of things. But Lord didn't let me break anything. Couldn't breathe for a while. Then I got thankful for air all over again. But I can just see those angels. We're a spectacle to them. They watch us. I bet it's better than soap operas, watching some of the nonsense we pull. And you see Martin going out there going fishing. And all the angels in the bleachers watching Martin fish. And they say, hey guys, let's keep them fish from getting on Martin's hook. And so he's out there all day long, man, toiling and catching absolutely nothing. They're all just rolling with laughter. Say, look at that. Next time, boys, let's do something different. Let's get a whale on his hook. I just think sometimes they just look at us and say, man, this is better than TV. It's reality TV. Noticed also, it says the apostles are last. The Bible says the first shall be what? And the last shall be first. The apostles were first. Now here's the way it works. What will a man give in exchange for his soul? There's people, well, Luke chapter 16, probably the best place to get this from for you. Rich man and Lazarus. The rich man had everything. Man, big screen TV. He had a boat. He had a big old car, motorhome, just all this stuff. And then there was this poor guy, had nothing. And he sat out the rich man's gate hoping to get some food. And the dogs came by and licked him when he had sores. This guy had nothing. Well, one day, Bible says in Luke chapter 16, the poor man died and the angels came and gathered him up. They were his pallbearers and took him to heaven. And then it says of the rich man, he died. That's all it says. He died. And in hell, he lifted up his eyes, being in torments, plural. And he could see that Lazarus over there and Father Abraham. And he said, Father Abraham, send Lazarus down here just to put a drop of water on my tongue. I'm burning up. Lazarus said, no. I mean, the rich man. Abraham, I'll get it right. Abraham said, no. He said, son, remember, in your life, you had everything. You had your reward. And Lazarus had nothing. Now he's being comforted and you're being tormented. You see, you can get a reward in this life. If that's all you want, you might make money. You might make lots of money. Maybe you'll win the lottery. Who knows? So I've never bought a lottery ticket, so I don't plan on winning. But I don't lose my money either. I mean, who knows what tomorrow will bring for you? You might find the best job in the world. and a boss who doesn't even care whether you can do anything or not. He'll pay you anyway. There are some nuts like that. And you'll get your reward. And there's another person there who doesn't have anything, but they're saved and they love the Lord. And one day you'll stand before God and He'll tell you the same thing. He said, you had your reward. Now He's getting His. So you got to decide which one you want. You can do good in this life. It just takes a little extra work. But is that enough? I mean, the other is for eternity. And if you die and end up in hell, you will die and die and die and keep on dying and never cease to exist, just experiencing death all the time. While the other guy is having fun, finally. Martin and I have been working at GODTEL a long time. I've been working for GODTEL for over 40 years. And Martin's been here, 12 days? I don't know. 30 years or something?
89 this time.
Yeah.
The first one a couple of years.
Yeah. Yeah, he couldn't stand me any longer than that the first time, so he left. He said, I'm going to get me a real job. But God brought him back. That's his punishment for not liking me. And we've been doing this for a long time, and it's not for the money, that's obvious. It's because we know this is where God wants us to be. And sometimes it's really hard. I work 7 days a week. Nancy and I have not had a vacation in 25 years, something like that. It's been a long time. But I don't care, because my reward's coming. And then I'll get Martin's boat, and he'll be on the side shore going, oh, my boat, my boat. Get my reward. The reward that I'm seeking is just to see Jesus. Whatever else comes, it'll be fine. Just want to see Jesus. Father, thank you for loving us tonight, and we thank you for your word. And we do pray, Father, that we're listening and learning, growing, especially now because we're coming up on the last days. Things can't get just a whole lot worse before you end up destroying America, because the majority of Americans won't listen. What's happening in other countries, some of the most beautiful and lush farming areas in the world, and now they're all devastated because of war. And that's coming here. But we don't listen. We don't learn. We keep making excuses and justifying our actions. We don't need God. We just need to dump more money on things, and that doesn't work, but they can't see it. We thank you that at least individually we can be right with you, and whether we live or whether we die isn't important. What's important is that you promise to take care of us, and we believe you will. We ask you to bless the remainder of this evening. We're very grateful for the salvation you've given us and the promise to return. We thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.